Okay, let's not even try to pretend like this isn't getting real. Because guess what? We're now officially less than 2 weeks away from Bears rookies reporting to training camp. And if that sentence doesn't get your football heart pumping just a little bit faster, I don't know what will, because we're not talking about off-season hopefuls or draft theory anymore, no. We're talking about helmets getting strapped, coaches yelling in the July heat, positional battles igniting, and the long, grueling, beautiful grind of training camp beginning. And here's the kicker. This year, it actually matters in Chicago. Not in that, well, let's see if we can win 7 games kind of way, but in that, wait a second, we might have something special cooking here kind of way. Because from top to bottom, from the front office to the far end of the depth chart, this Bears team feels layered, intriguing, and yes, dare I say, playoff caliber. And I know what you're thinking. That's bold. Maybe even a little delusional considering how far we've had to climb out of the NFL cellar in recent years. But hear me out. Because I took the time to sit down. Yes, full-on notepad out, iced coffee in hand, AirPods blasting NFL film scores, and I ranked every single NFC team to figure out where the Bears honestly stack up in this 2025 playoff race, and the results? Fascinating, surprising, and maybe a little spicy too, because you can't talk playoffs without first tipping your cap to the top dog in the NFC, the Philadelphia Eagles. And I mean, come on, they're still the standard right now, right? They embarrassed the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, they kept the bulk of their roster intact, they retooled again like a well-oiled front office machine, and with Sirianni still pulling strings and Jalen Hurts in full command, you can pencil them in at number 1 without breaking a sweat, and then we get to my number 2 team, which might raise some eyebrows. But I'm going with the Rams, and yes, I'm aware they're not the flavor of the month, but Sean McVay is still an elite offensive mind. Matthew Stafford still has juice, and swapping out a declining Cooper Kupp for Devontae freaking Adams is not just a wide receiver upgrade. It's a statement, a declaration that LA is not here to fade quietly into the night, and if that young defense makes even a moderate leap, they're going to make life miserable for teams expecting last year's Rams to walk through the door. And then at number 3, yep, here they come, the Detroit Lions. And look, I'm not here to hate on Detroit. They've earned their spot, they've got physicality, they've got swagger, and they've got Jared Goff doing just enough to stay dangerous. But let's not pretend that losing Ben Johnson isn't going to test their offensive ceiling in a very real way, because Goff without a high-level play caller has historically been, well, let's just say not the same Goff. And this might be the year that their high-octane offense takes a small step back, especially as other NFC North teams close the gap. So I still respect them, but I don't think they run away with the division by any means. And now let's talk number 4, Tampa Bay, baby. And listen, I know Baker Mayfield playoff team still sounds weird to say out loud, but the man delivered last year. He balled out with guts, poise, and that signature chip on his shoulder. And when you factor in Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, an improved O-line, and that nasty D-line anchored by Vita Vea and Kalijah Kancey, you've got a group that can surprise people, especially in a still soft NFC South, which brings us to number 5. And this one's fun. Washington, the Commanders, and yes, I'm buying in on the Jaden Daniels Year 2 leap, especially now that he's got Deebo Samuel in his arsenal, plus a defense that's going to look a lot faster and more aggressive than people realize. And while I don't think they unseat the Eagles in the division, I do think they're legit. And now it's time, Bears fans, because here it is. At number 6 in the conference, I've got the Chicago Bears. Yep, right there in playoff position. And no, I'm not just drinking the Kool-Aid. I'm chugging it responsibly while watching tape, because what this team has done in one offseason is transformational, starting with a legitimate coaching staff from top to bottom, Ben Johnson at the helm, finally, Shane Waldron calling plays, Eric Washington overseeing a front 7 that suddenly looks ferocious. And let's talk about that offense. Caleb Williams, Year 2, with actual protection in front of him and throwing to DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, and Keenan Allen? That's not a maybe we can hang group. That's a we can beat you downfield, underneath, on slants, on curls, on digs, on whatever we feel like group. And don't sleep on Cole Kmet either, because he's going to feast with all that attention on the perimeter. And for the first time in forever, this offense feels built to score. not just survive. And with a defense that includes Montez Sweat, Tremaine Edmonds, Jalen Johnson, Kyler Gordon, and a safety duo that'll knock your teeth in, there's a real chance this Bears team finds its rhythm, wins ugly games, and surprises people late in the season. And then at number 7, I've got the Minnesota Vikings sneaking in. Not because they're dominant, but because their defense is quietly very, very good, and Kevin O'Connell has become a quarterback whisperer of sorts. So even if J.J. McCarthy isn't electric, he just has to manage the game while that defense keeps things close, and that's enough to earn that last wildcard slot. But now let's talk about the teams that just miss, starting with number 8, Green Bay. And look, Jordan Love improved last year. And he's got weapons, but there's still a consistency problem, especially in pressure moments. And the Packers don't scare me like they used to, not with Chicago and Minnesota ready to swing. And then comes number 9, San Francisco. And yes, this is the big shocker because they've been a powerhouse for years, but the cracks are showing. From offensive line regression to defensive age creeping into the looming question of whether Brock Purdy can keep elevating in an NFC that's getting faster and more dangerous every year. And at number 10, the Cowboys, because let's be honest, they can still score. But giving up 468 points last year? That's not a playoff defense. That's a meltdown waiting to happen. And I don't care how many touchdowns CeeDee Lamb scores. If you can't stop anyone, January football is a myth. And then we've got the Falcons, Seahawks, Cardinals, Panthers, Giants, and Saints in the mix. All with some potential but major question marks. And if you're asking me who could surprise from that lower group, I'd say keep a sneaky eye on Arizona and Atlanta. Arizona has some building blocks in place and Kyler Murray returning with a chip on his shoulder. And Atlanta looked like a team on the rise before stalling out. And if they get consistent quarterback play, things could shift fast. And now, let's bring it back to the Bears because the truth is, their playoff fate likely comes down to 3 games against the Packers, the 49ers, and the Cowboys. And if they can win even 2 of those, suddenly you're not just in the hunt, you're in control. And when you match that with winnable games in the division and a roster built to evolve, the path is there. But it won't be easy and no one's handing us anything, which is what makes this camp so important. Because it's not just about who wins the WR4 battle or who takes first reps at nickel corner. It's about shaping an identity, instilling belief, and making sure Caleb Williams walks out of that tunnel every week knowing this city, this franchise, this locker room believes he's the guy to lead us out of the wilderness and into contention. And if we're being honest, if you stack this roster, these coaches, and this schedule against the NFC landscape, there's a legit argument that the Bears aren't just a fringe playoff team, they're a rising force. And while yes, things have to click, and no,